Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and Master Certified Life Coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today's episode is all about the power of mindfulness to cope with a terminal illness. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle with over 1 million downloads and counting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your Master Certified Coach and Midlife Transition Expert, and I am so glad to be here with you again. Now, my friend, I know that you know that midlife isn't all rainbows and daisies. At our age, we go through a lot of big stuff, both positive and negative, and today's topic is an important one because cancer and terminal illness are part of the human experience. We just got to talk about it. I know you're going to appreciate the perspective and insight my incredibly special guest brings to the whole topic. Her personal experience with mindfulness tools to help her cope is so powerful, so without further ado, let me tell you more about her. My guest today is Gillian Borg, who is going to share her experience with the power of mindfulness when coping with a terminal illness. Gillian is a mother of 2 beautiful children and grandmother to a beautiful granddaughter. Gillian was diagnosed as terminally ill in August 2022 and was given less than a year to live. She was previously a debt specialist and from a banking background. Now she's retired due to ill health. Gillian also has lots of life skills and hobbies that she's accumulated over the years. Now 60 years young, she's definitely got a few stories and experiences to share. Gillian has always loved life and has been surrounded by love and support from her beautiful friends and family. She and others truly believe that her outlook on life and the support she has received have been contributing factors to the way she's responded so well to treatment. Gillian looks forward to getting up every day. She strongly believes that we can never face these things alone and that we have to reach out and talk about such matters like terminal illness in a healthy and positive way. Gillian shares her story because she wants to inspire and support anyone else going through something similar. I know you're going to get a lot out of meeting Gillian and hearing her story. One more thing regarding an episode like this that includes health information, please remember that the information shared in this podcast is intended for your convenience, entertainment, and education, and isn't geared to your personal situation. It's not a replacement for care or advice from your own medical professional. So as always, you may have some things you want to follow up on, so please seek a suitable professional to advise you on your personal situation. Hi, Gillian. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle podcast.
Hello, Susie. Thank you so much for having me today. Very, very delighted to be joining you on this.
And you are in the UK, correct?
I am, yes.
So it's
a place called Bristol.
Oh, it's so, first of all, I love your accent. And it's
Thank
just
you.
so great. Out there in the internet, I met a lovely woman named Tina who brought us together because she thought you'd be a good fit for the podcast. And you are. And I am so delighted to hear your story and to share your story. It is one of surprising inspiration. So, Gillian, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about what was happening in your 40s.
Well, actually, I was 34 when I had breast cancer at the age of 34. Had 2 very small children, 2 and 4, and there was no. It hadn't travelled anywhere. I hadn't gone to my lymph nodes. I had a mastectomy, and that was in 1999. And then in 2011, it came back, which was my 40s. But I was a single mum. I say a single mum. We were still very much parents. So I was a single mum in the fact that I lived alone with my children. But he was very much a dad, so he was around, and we had the perfect scenario, really, best friends. And for me, it was about how the adults behaved to how the children would deal with it. That was so important to me. And so everybody behaved like civilized adults and were very mindful of the children and, their safety place and everything. So that was all good. So it returned when Holly was 16, I think, in 2011. And then, of course, it was worse for the children because they were more knowing. When they
Yes.
were 2 and 4, I would turn up to school to pick them up, maybe with a different color wig on each day or antlers, and I did obviously lose my hair. And I said to the children, well, George didn't understand, but I said, Holly, mummy's having special medicine and it's going to make my hair fall out. It's so good. It's so clever. And it's going to make me better. And then when that's all over, my hair will start to grow back and I'll be the same mummy that I was before all of this. So they were able to, it was lighthearted, not lighthearted, but I explained it to them in simple terms. At the time when I was diagnosed at 34, I didn't know anybody with breast cancer apart from my mother-in-law who had died from it, but she had ignored it. She was very much of the different kind of generation. She was scared. She had a lump. She didn't get it checked. And then by the time she did, it literally, honestly, Susie, it was scary because the doctor came to the house and I spoke to one of the daughters and she said, doctor says, mum's got breast cancer. And I thought, there is no way they would ever say a statement like that, just going to the house. But what actually happened, Susie, it was so far advanced. It had started to show.
Wow.
It was like a stage 4, where it, normally you get a lump, there's stage 1, and then maybe it's stage 2 because it's faster growing or whatever. But it completely ulcerated out of the breast. So he was right in saying it was breast cancer. He knew she had left it that long.
Wow.
So, but at the time, obviously, Pat had died from it, quite a few years after. But so my knowledge of people with breast cancer was very limited. It was much rarer then. It's much more common now, as we know, and people are so much more informed and have a lot more support, or, we've got one-stop clinics and all of those things. So my experience of it was, oh my gosh. But I did have the best treatment. I did have chemotherapy and we got through it. And actually, without, sounding odd, it was one of the best years of my life. I had so much support from friends and family that I was so loved that I was put on I was carried along by love and support. And I'd feel, well, I can't feel sorry for myself because I am so blessed. I am so lucky. And actually, at the time, I had a fantastic oncologist. She was a leading light. She was this amazing woman, round, square peg, round hole sort of thing. She was just eccentric and, everything was, darling, have a large glass champagne when she give you results, if you were worrying about the worst. And actually, she wanted to video me. She said, women like you, make the best recoveries because of the support you've got. And, I had somebody to take me. I had radiotherapy. I had a scheduled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday person. People would make cottage pies and all of those things. They were all so in shock because I was so young. And I'm this larger than life character and I'm the person that everybody came to. So suddenly now they're like, oh my gosh, we've got to keep her here and all this. And I recovered really well. But it did come back for a second time in 2011 and then again in 2017. And 2017, again, never had any spread, hadn't gone to my lymph nodes or anything. And I just thought, I'd met a very special lady the first time around, and I thought perhaps I'd met her because she was very isolated. She was a businesswoman. She was a like a headhunter. And I thought, and she kind of clung on to me. She didn't have lots of gorgeous, genuine people around her. And we became very close. And I thought maybe it was the reason I had breast cancer was to meet her and help her through it. Eventually, she did pass, but we were great friends. She spent a lot of time with us. All my friends became her friends. And she moved near me. She got the same doctor as me. And it was a very special relationship. And I always had a way of flipping things on it, and thinking, well, maybe I was just meant to guide her through it because, we did really support each other. And then in 2017, my father was poorly, very poorly, and terminally ill. And so I just told them, because I'd had reconstruction. So I told them that the actual implant had a burst. So I didn't tell them I had cancer. My parents, they were elderly, didn't want to worry them, had enough support from everyone else. And I had a sister who'd had breast cancer too. And she became the chairwoman of a group called Bosom Buddies. So she was really into it. But I never joined any groups like that. I felt I didn't necessarily need the comfort of strangers. I tried it once, and I went, and when I was very young, and I couldn't really relate to people because they weren't as young as me, and they were talking about things that weren't as important to me. You know, the worst thing for them was one lady, and it is a terrible thing, and I know that now, because I look like a Russian shot putter when I'm bald with no hair. It's not a good look for me, you know. And she said the worst thing for her was losing her hair. And I was like, oh my Lord. The worst thing for me was telling my family. The worst thing for me was changing everyone's lives in a heartbeat. I'm the youngest of three girls. They all adored me. And I was this larger than life character who everybody came to. And I was now about to change everyone's lives. And I felt very guilty about that. So I couldn't relate to these people. So I didn't join the group. I didn't keep going. And I had outside, you know, support from friends, but I very much, my support was the specialists and the nurses. I had counselling with my nurse, you know, so people that I knew that I could draw from that would give me the tools or the right information. I didn't go on the internet. I didn't put myself through those things. I still don't. Although I do more so now, but I have such a great relationship. I've had such fantastic treatment. In 2022, just going a bit further, in 2022, the end of 21, Christmas, I got COVID, and I had a terrible cough, and I got bad back, and it wouldn't go away. And I was starting a new job, a new career as an estate agent. And I'd kind of been headhunted for this. You know, I had done a brilliant course with my friend my cousin, sorry, who owned a big, big company franchise. And he had put me on lots of courses. He said, you'd be amazing at this. And I went to, I was in the supermarket one day, and I bumped into this woman, and she said, do you want to, you know, would you get back into admin? Because I was a carer at this point. Sorry, I don't want to go from one thing to another. You know, I don't want to be waffling on, Susie. But I said, yeah, I'd love to. Anyway, I was starting a new job, and I was poorly. And then we waited till the COVID had gone a couple of weeks, and I started, but I still had a bad back. Contacted the doctor in the January. I said, I've got a bad back. And obviously, I'd had breast cancer 3 times. But I didn't say this, and I was never, you know, I'm not one to go to the doctors or anything. I'm very in touch with my body, and you know, but I genuinely didn't think it was anything sinister. January, the February, the March, and I rang every month, and they weren't seeing people face to face. Eventually in the May, and I was having difficulty walking. He said I had a slip disc or a trapped nerve. And eventually I get to see him face to face. And I said, look, you know, I'm not one to go looking for problems, but I think I need a scan, you know, at a minimum. So he only sent me for a partial scan. Long story short, I had to chase for the scan and everything. And then one day I was so poorly, and I'd only been at this, I never took one day sick because it was a new job. I'm very conscientious, and I was loving the job, but I was finding it difficult. I was feeling sick. I was finding it difficult to walk, my nerve endings and everything, in pain. So I thought, yeah, no, and friends started to say, Jill, you know, you don't look well, and all this sort of thing. And I genuinely, Susie, I'm such a glass half full person. I genuinely didn't think, I genuinely never even occurred to me that it was connected to cancer or anything. I was supposed to go in on the Monday because the manager had been off, and it was her She wanted me to sort of hand over, but we had a fantastic CRM system. So really you just could go into any account if you were really savvy with it and get all the information. I could have dropped dead and you would have known exactly what happened in that time that you were on holiday. That's the beauty of them. And she wanted me to go in, but I spoke to the sort of head honcho and I said, look, I'm really in pain. I can't move my neck to drive and everything. I've spoken to a doctor and she's prescribed me these really strong tramadol, I think it was, yeah. And she said, but you're going to need a couple of days, consecutive days, because they'll knock you out, but they'll help with the pain. Anyway, so he said, yeah, no problem. Take Monday. Monday was my day off anyway. And so on the Monday, I rang the surgery and I just said, look, I've had no results from my scans or anything. Can you, and she said, oh, you just have to chase it yourself. Chased it up. So I've got some fantastic woman. Only takes one good person. And she said, oh, Gillian, you've had breast cancer, haven't you, before? And I said, yeah, 3 times. She said, look, I'm going to go off. I'll ring you back. She said, I'm going to speak to the secretary. She came back. She said, I promise you, because it's got nearly 5 weeks now, Susie. She said, the results, your report will be written up and with your GP by end of business today. So I'd already rang the doctors in the morning because the tramadol hadn't worked with the pain. And so I said, can I have a telephone appointment? Because I'm in trouble now, I'm in pain. This hasn't worked. I just had loads of terrible nightmares. And so the doctor rings me at 5 o'clock and I said, they've got the report, they're going to, and he said, let me stop you there. And I said, okay. He said, you've got 3 tumors in your spine. And the relief of knowing that I did have something. And I said, oh, my Lord, I said, can you write me a sick note? Because I felt I was going into work, Susie, and I was really unwell. Wow. I mean, unwell. And he said, absolutely. So he wrote me a sick note for 6 weeks sort of thing. And then I got into the system and they were at it all guns blazing. They didn't want me to suffer any more than I already had. And then obviously I had a further scan, a full body scan, MRI. So I found out in the May it had gone to my bones, but I hadn't had it clarified or wherever with the consultant. Went to the consultant and it had gone to my liver. I found that out in the June, and in the July, August, I found out that it had gone to my brain. So then I'd gone from being incurable to terminal. But I was so fortunate because I had, it sounds crazy to you probably, but I had 14 tumors. Well, I had 12 tumors in my brain, lesions. And there's a fantastic treatment called gamma knife. And it's targeted. So it's like radiation, but it's targeted to the tumors. But you have to have 15 tumors or less to qualify for it. And they rang me they had their MDT meeting and they rang me on a Wednesday and said, look, we're absolutely delighted to tell you that you qualify for gamma knife. And I was elated. And I looked it up, put in gamma knife, and it says that people can be here, with 4 years after this treatment. That was enough for me. Shut it down, didn't go into anything else. And then on the day of me having, so then I had a further brain scan, and then I had 14 tumors. So in the space of a few weeks, I had 2 more tumors. So on the day of the treatment, I had to have another brain scan to ascertain that I had 15 tumors or less. And I'm absolutely praying for this treatment. And the consultants were so amazing. So then I did have 14 still. Now I had 14, and so I was able to have the treatment. It was 5.5 hours in a cage, and you're in a tube. I was claustrophobic. I'm completely over that now, You have to be your mind has got to be your best friend, and you've got to talk to yourself and all of those things. And actually, the music was awful. And I said to the girl, I did a buzzer because you have to give them a bit of warning, I needed to use the bathroom. And I said, listen, that music, I'm losing the will to live, She said, would you like a podcast? So I said, yeah. And she said, I said, oh, I don't mind anything. Anyway, the podcast was, you'll never believe it, but the McCann story. So that was pretty, sad and dire because at the time, I really got fixated on that. So I managed to do it. And they said, we've never known anyone beg for this treatment, because you're in there a long time. It's difficult. It's arduous, but it's completely doable. You
Wow.
switch off. And the only reason, as I was so tired, I hadn't really slept, and we were up really early and we got there really early. And I thought, I'll have a lovely sleep. I'll just go to sleep and I'll relax. Well, they gave me 8 steroids to help with the swelling and everything. So it's like party for one in this tube and you're bolted to a thing, so I couldn't sleep, Susie.
Gillian, I am literally speechless. So I'm watching your adorable face and animation and positivity and your cute accent. I thought you were going to say they gave you my podcast. That would have been
No, that would have been amazing. Yeah, that would have been amazing,
oh, it would
wouldn't
have
it?
been more fun than
What a
what you got.
coincidence. Yeah,
That it would have
I
been more
know.
fun than what you got. Um, it's just there's just so much to your story. Um, and I've only been in a tube once, and I wasn't even all the way in, and I could feel the
No.
panic starting
Yes.
to rise.
Yes.
So I'm so thrilled that you were able to get that procedure. And,
Yes. Oh,
what you're describing about COVID, when we talk about it now that it's in the rearview mirror, more or less,
yes.
certainly not
Yeah.
gone. I had it this year. Um,
Yeah.
but there were so many side effects of things like
Yes.
the medical system and the way your treatment was
Yes.
delayed, like you couldn't even be seen properly. And
No. I,
that was
I,
a
I
real
mean,
that was a real
yeah.
problem with your
Oh,
situation.
absolutely. And I know that the consultant whom I have is amazing, and they all treat me with the utmost respect. They treat me like a veteran. They listen to everything. They know that I'm sensible. They're amazing. I've responded so brilliantly. The brain is shrunk. The tumors and lesions have reduced by 50%. And I also have injections every 4 weeks in my buttocks for the bone and liver cancer because they're both hormone receptive. They're secondary breast cancers. I think what's important for me is as well is that women that have gone through breast cancer, they're not checked all the time. They go 5 years and they go, oh, that's fantastic. You've gone 5 years. And we get on with our lives because we don't want to live in the shadow of it and you want to go on. But I do believe that women should be able to have a full body scans after 5 years, certainly after 10 years. Keep an eye on us because I know it's about money and all of those things, but if I'd known then what I know now, I've got these twinges. If it hadn't been for COVID, I would have been seen a lot earlier. That was the difference between me having 12 tumors and 14 tumors and going over, that I wouldn't have been able to have that treatment. I would have been devastated, and so would my family, because then I would have had to have radiotherapy on my head. It's not as, specialized. It's so clever, this treatment. It's absolutely brilliant. But they had to plan it all. And on the day that I was having the treatment, they're planning it all. I'm sat in another room and they're changing it because I've now got 2 more tumors, and these people are amazing. And my friend, really good friend, flew over from Australia. When she knew it had gone to my brain, everybody, like, oh my gosh. And she came with me, obviously, that day. We were staying in a house in Bath, this beautiful house. We called it Party Central, and we had it for 12 days and 12 nights. And my cousin flew over from Barcelona. Everyone was coming from everywhere. And when I came out of the treatment, and you have this great big thing bolted to your head, she said, "Can she have a drink tonight?" And he said, "Yeah, one." And the nurse behind him went, "Two." And I did. I had cocktails, champagne, and and
Oh,
and everybody made me feel normal, and I was safe. And actually, I flew through that. That was good. So
that's remarkable. The other thing that strikes me about your story is your attitude about work. So you're going through stuff,
yes,
to put it lightly. You've got pain. It's the weirdness of COVID. And you had the ability to get excited about a new career
I
direction.
know. I know. I
Like you
know.
had to study it too. It's not like you had done it before. So somebody
No, that's right. I had to
had
do
the
all the
insight.
legislation and yes,
Right. You
yes,
had to learn stuff. You had
yes,
to go,
yeah,
you put yourself out as a beginner. And it
yes,
turned out that you loved it. And it
I
was a
did.
very fulfilling part of
Yes.
your story.
Yeah. And I would still be doing it now if I hadn't got ill. Obviously, I'd asked my consultant, what do you think? He said, listen, you're going to have a lot on. You are not going to be able to work. And, he was right. And I've been very, very fortunate because I've come from a banking background, accounting, and as I say, I was a debt specialist. And my sister, we had our business together. So we did secured loans, that all changed when the American, the subprime market was affected back in 2006, 2007. I reinvented myself then because all the lenders were shutting their doors. So I reinvented myself as a debt specialist, did all the exams for that, learned what I could learn, everything I needed to know, whole of market that I could help somebody who was in financial difficulty, individuals and businesses. And I really, I loved that too. I loved it. I helped people and I met people at their absolute worst. And I could change their lives around for them. I could absolutely change their lives. I did a lot of work with the police.
Well, the other thing I really see though is that there's a parallel going on here. You get so much fulfillment and personal feeling of satisfaction from being able to help people, knowing
Absolutely.
that you're such a good listener, your empathy skills are top notch, and you're able to really understand what they're going through and offer them tools that actually help their lives. And when you talked about the professionals that you started to rely on in your situation, it
Yeah,
sounds like you were also in full appreciation of their ability
absolutely.
to empathize
Yes,
and how important it was for them to help you enjoy your life now,
absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. My friend who flew over from Australia, they wanted me desperately to go over, and my consultant was 120% behind it. I want you to live your life. I haven't gone to Australia because I don't want to put that much pressure on my brain. You're going higher up and all those things.
Right.
But I've been to Spain, Susie. I went to Spain in August. I flew out with a friend who lives there, but I flew home on my own and I was so proud of myself.
Wow.
Um, I was in a wheelchair this time last. Well, when I first, I was in a wheelchair. The treatments really helped me. I have tumors all down my left-hand side, but my mobility now is fantastic. I'm not running marathons or doing my 10,000 steps a day like I used to, but
Really?
I've got quality of life. Yeah. I've got a dog walker, I have a
Mm.
cleaner, I've got everything in place to
Wow.
make my little home run like a little business, and it's all tickety boo, and that's what makes the difference.
Oh, I have one
Um,
other friend from the UK who says tickety boo, and I started to say it too. It's perfect. I love that you have created that for yourself and
yes,
this trust in people and professionals that you have in all parts of your life. The
yes,
people, the relationships are really
so important. Yeah,
so important. So now that you're retired from business,
yes,
um, and it's so clear to me, and we talked a little bit in our pre-interview that you are totally good with asking for help. You
yeah,
relied on your clients when you were working to reach out and ask for help in dire situations. And
yes,
you've learned that for yourself too with your health situation. Can you talk a
yes.
little bit about why you should never feel too embarrassed to reach out and get the right advice? Like what you've noticed and what you've learned from dealing with
Okay,
so many people in that situation.
so I'll give you two scenarios, one for the illness and one for the debt and things like that. When I was, I went through menopause young because I had had chemotherapy, so it put me into early menopause. So I was, I guess, about 38, maybe coming up to 40. And I started to, obviously I was having hot flushes, thought it was the chemo and things like that, the lasting effects. Um, I was such a patient mum, Everybody could come to my house. It would be full of toys and mess, but the children were always beautifully clean, well fed, and stimulated. It was all that mattered to me. Come to my home any time of the day, and it looked like I had burglars or been robbed or something, but everything else, the kids were, my kids are amazing now. I remember, suddenly feeling different and changing, and my moods and feeling cross with the children for absolutely no apparent reason, that something I would never have ever lost my temper with. And I never shouted at them, never ever chastised them or smacked them ever. But I started to feel really, really angry. And I thought, who can I talk to about this? This is embarrassing. I'm feeling cross with my children. Who can I say to? I had a really gorgeous friend. I got loads and loads of friends, but I had a gorgeous friend who was really happily married with a boy and a girl, the same as me. Lovely husband, very sort of successful business. She didn't work. We were really close, and she was a very kind person. I thought, I'm going to ask Mars. I'm going to ask Marcia. She's got it all together. I'm going to ask her if she ever feels like this, because no point me just asking some random or saying to the doctor, sort of thing. So I pulled her aside one day and I said, Mars, I said, I've got this terrible, overwhelming feeling. I feel really angry with the children at times. Do you ever get like that? My God, yes, she said, I could to them some days, but I wouldn't. She said, but, oh my God, Joe, that's so normal, She said our hormones are so responsible. And, and I didn't realize I was going through the change and, peripausal. And I just felt so much better, Susie. And I needn't have felt embarrassed. And that woman and I now, we've talked about some things that have been close to our hearts that we've been able to share with each other. She shared with me, knowing that it will never go any further, And then I could openly say, oh my Lord, I thought I was, I just thought I was going mad.
Yes.
And then I went to the doctors who knew me really well. He was absolutely gorgeous, our doctor. And I got I just said, and I filled out this thing on how many days do you feel like this? Tick, 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 tick. And it looked like I was severely depressed. He said, and I know you're not, but, something changes. So I had the tests and I was peripausal. So that made sense. And I won't say that I went on a very sort of, a great sort of hormone, something to lighten the mood. And it was amazing. I felt like the old Jill again. And that was, if you've got a broken leg, you go out and you get plaster of Paris on it. But we don't talk about our,
Yeah.
And our hormones as women are responsible for so many things.
Yes.
Even when we're younger, our poor young people and everything, it is absolutely. But people wouldn't, don't think it can't be that. I'm just that I've reached out to friends who have said, my husband's thinking of divorcing me because when I've got my time of the month or I'm like unbearable and I say go talk to your doctor, go do this or get some alternative, do whatever you can, but do not suffer. Reach out, get some help, go to the right people who know what they're talking about.
I remember I had a weird experience with the anger too, and for me it was there were 2 times. It was also perimenopausal. I didn't know though. It just felt like an out of body experience of anger where I was like watching myself from the sky.
Yeah.
Just, really get angry. And I happened to mention it to my doctor by the by I hadn't put it together, but she specifically asked and I mentioned it. I just never had mood swings before. And there it was. And then, just like you, the numbers or whatever it was showed that's what was happening. There was a change. Yeah. And we're just not aware of that stuff. But the answer is to seek professional help always.
Always, always. We should never try and, suffer in silence. I was in a women's network group called Women Mean Business, and we used to go and people, once they get to know you and trust you and know that you've got integrity and, that's what it's about in our businesses and in our work life and our career, building relationships with people that that you would use for that you would trust. And I, the greatest thing for me, Susie, was, people would, once I told them and and then they sort of wouldn't ring me at the beginning or wouldn't talk to me then, but would get my number from someone and then contact
Wow.
me or email me.
Wow.
And yeah, I managed to save and, change a lot. I know it sounds like a sweeping statement, but yeah, change people's lives. It really did
Oh,
make a difference.
it's so fulfilling. It's so
Yeah,
fulfilling.
yeah.
Gillian, it's been such a privilege to speak to you and to hear
Oh,
your
thank you.
story.
Likewise,
The one
Susie.
thing you hadn't mentioned is your beautiful granddaughter. Yet, how
Uh,
lovely that you've,
yes,
how
she's
old
a
is she?
she was a year old in August,
Wonderful.
and she's been life changing for us all. She's been the absolute she's changed our worlds, and gives me something to, obviously I've got my beautiful children, but she is such a delight, Susie. She's so beautiful. She's got her own little character already. It's just
Oh,
lovely, and she's the most wonderful little soul. And she walks, and she's just gorgeous. She's absolutely gorgeous, and she brightens up our days. And I've got a 30-year-old daughter and 28-year-old son is the daddy, and he's just turned into this, grown up now. He's just unbelievable. We
how
all love her
beautiful.
so much. Thank you. Yeah.
So, Jillian, just to close, what would you say your best advice is for somebody who has, this kind of diagnosis, this terminal diagnosis?
My absolute message is to do not suffer in silence. Just by saying it out loud doesn't make it worse, and it won't make it go away, and it won't. But by saying it out loud, you will make yourself feel better, but you must go to the right people. Um, because friends don't know, and you might say to them, "Oh, I've got a lump, or I've got this," they'll say, "Oh, I don't know." We have a way of talking ourselves out of things,
Hmm.
and just pick up the phone. And there are so many fantastic people out there. You don't even have to be part of in the system or anything. You just say, "Look, I've got a worry, I've got a concern," and they'll give you the best contact details. You
Hmm.
know, Certainly with breast cancer, you have one-stop clinics. We're very lucky. And with our doctors, if you're really, really worried, don't play it down. Do not play it down. Don't say, "Well, I think I'm fine." You're absolutely, unless you're an absolute hypochondriac and they see you all the time, they will listen.
Yes.
They've got to. They have a duty to. So you say, "Look, I'm not a scaredy cat. I'm not, I'm genuinely worried, but I want to be able to allay my fears, because it's never terrible until it's terrible."
Hmm.
So all of the things that we think that go through our heads are the worst case scenarios. Normally, it's not that. Unfortunately for me, but my goodness, I had breast cancer 3 times. I still feel blessed. I'm still living my life to the full. I got given less than a year to live, and that was 2.5 years ago. And here I am, larger than life, loving life, and getting up every morning, looking forward to getting up every day. I would say absolutely reach out to professionals. Go to your doctor in the first instance. Absolutely. And push it. Don't let them fob you off. I
Right.
think they took it up on my behalf. I really do,
Yeah.
because I waited for so long, and it was crucial actually to it could have been the difference between me not being able to have gamma knife. So it made a difference. Your GPs have to listen. If you're intelligent, or even if you're not, we've got common sense. You only need common sense, and you can ask them as a human to human, or
Yeah.
adult to adult, say, "Listen, I need you to hear me. I am
Thank you for that.
genuinely worried."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for that. And it is a reminder because we do tend to play things down and
we
we
do.
to put everybody else first.
We
And it
absolutely
is
do.
really, really important reminder. Jillian, thank you so much. We wish you the best.
Thank you.
And I'll never forget meeting you. It's been an absolute
Me
delight.
too. Thank you so much, Susie. Lovely to meet you. You take care. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, that's it for this episode. Jillian's message to surround ourselves with uplifting and genuine people was just so powerful. Think about it. Are you functioning this way with this much intention yourself? She feels so strongly that we're not meant to be a lone island, and the more support we get, the better. Sometimes it may feel easier to just withdraw, hoping whatever terrible thing it is will just go away. I hope her message to reach out and get the help you need stays with you and serves you well. If you would like to connect with Gillian Borg, please go to www.gillianborg.com. If you want to understand how mindfulness can help you get out of your own way so that you're happier overall, I might be your gal. It is way more fun to do this together. Okay, that is it for this episode. As you know, this podcast is all about how to love your life again after 50. It's really all about coaching you to be more intentional and to incorporate mindfulness into your life as a regular practice. This is how you put yourself on your agenda. My focus as your midlife coach is to help you get unstuck, clear, and focused on your current values and priorities so you don't have regrets. I can help you create the confidence, courage, and meaning you're looking for. If you're ready to explore what coaching together might look like for you, you are invited to book your momentum call at www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com, and we'll talk about it. And one more thing, if you're feeling stuck and want to take some fast action, you're also invited to get my new masterclass, Get Unstuck, Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy, where you can get clear about your next chapter priorities without spin, confusion, and overwhelm in less than an hour. Head over to www.midliferoadmap.com. And finally, for show notes and links, head over to susierosenstein.com and click the podcast tab and look for episode 386. You'll also see links there for the new show, Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs. Thanks so much for listening. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you next week.